rent assistance and a rent eviction moratorium heats up as a second stimulus package nears. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons LA8. Hope you're good and safe. This is our 2-hour programming block starting every afternoon at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, starting with the check, then hazard pay, FPUC, and ending with rent assistance at about 5 o'clock every day. A really exciting news overnight about rent assistance as the second stimulus check package nears potential agreement. Everyone is now calling for rent eviction moratoriums and foreclosure forbearance, which protects you against foreclosure, both if you're a Republican and Democrat, both the White House, both Nancy and Chuck, and so it's being formulated. It appears to not be one of the parts that is delaying the approval of the second stimulus bill. That's really the great news. As we sit back and we hear these people bickering, and I told you, ignore the bickering. It's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. You don't know what's going on with rent eviction moratorium. As Jim Cramer on CNBC this morning said, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? Do they expect half of the American public to be homeless next week? What are they doing? I can't see this ever happening. I can't see this bill never passing. Right before that, he talked about what we led on Mornings LA8 this morning. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for tuning in to make that a blockbuster show. The head of Morgan Stanley, one of the biggest banks in the nation, said, I see this deal being made within days. I don't think this is going much longer. I don't believe all the hot air. And there's going to be an eviction moratorium. There has to be. You can't have homelessness across this country. So that's really the great news. Let me go over with you what a rent eviction moratorium is, what a mortgage forbearance is, and then I'm going to go through the nuances of the dynamic of what's happening and also what's going on a local level, which is really quite fascinating. A rent eviction moratorium means that at the moment the moratorium is issued and becomes law, no one can be evicted from their home during this pandemic. So I don't care where in the process you are in a problem with your landlord. If the moment that bill becomes law, that landlord cannot remove you from the home. So examples are you're behind on the rent, but you're still in the home, and the landlord has said they're going to evict you. Or the landlord has already served you with an eviction, you're about to face eviction, you haven't left the home. Or 3, the eviction proceeding is really far along and you're facing a determination by the judge. All those things could literally be stopped instantly on the approval of a second stimulus package. I got to tell you, this is one of those times, unfortunately, where informed people will have benefits and uninformed people will not have benefits. And this is why, if you're watching this channel, I hope you tell as many of your friends as well when I'm imparting to you. It's very likely that people who just don't know what an eviction moratorium is, never heard of the word moratorium is, don't even understand how an eviction is done, and don't understand what's going on with the federal government as to this eviction moratorium, will get a letter from the landlord saying, leave or I'm evicting you, after the moratorium is passed, and believe it. Kamala Harris, who's the senator in California, warned about this situation. She warned that a lot of landlords will take advantage of people who are not informed about what may pass in an eviction moratorium and take advantage of those people and say, hey, leave, I'm kicking you out, and hope that the tenant doesn't know what just became law. And that's what's unfortunate in a society like this. A lot of people don't have access to information. A lot of people don't have Wi-Fi. A lot of people don't have computers or internet access. Is those people who are financially the most strapped that may not have access to this video. And so if you can tell your friends, hey, there's this kid at LA, and this is what he told us. If you can keep them informed, you're empowering more people. You are helping other people know the situation. The key with an eviction moratorium is the date in which it becomes really effective, because ultimately, if it becomes effective this Friday into law, Everyone who is facing eviction would not be evicted from their homes that day. Now, how about mortgage forbearance? That's also the confusing situation, and a situation that's not often explained to people who have homes, who can't make their mortgage, who have apartment buildings and can't make their mortgage. And ultimately, the dissemination of information is what empowers viewers, so please share this information with your friends and family as well. If the bill is passed this week, then if you can't make your mortgage, it would stop immediately the banks from being able to foreclose upon your home. It's the same thing that I talked about with eviction moratorium. So basically, if the process has started, if you are in pre-foreclosure, it would have to stop. If you've already started foreclosure proceedings, they would have to stop. If you are really at the very end of an eviction of a foreclosure proceeding, it would have to stop. It would give incredible reliefs that banks can't do anything. Now, ultimately, as Jim Cramer said on morning CNBC this morning, we have to have this because banks don't want these properties. If you don't realize, banks don't want to foreclose on anyone. When they foreclose, what they do is they take on enormous amounts of assets which they don't want to own. They don't want to own a home, and they don't have the mortgage paid. They want the money paid. They want the interest and principal paid. That's how they operate their business. And when they don't have their interest and principal paid, guess what? They go bankrupt. Banks will fall apart. They will become illiquid. They will have liquidity problems. The Federal Reserve will have to step in. It's a hot mess. We're talking about the Hot Mess Express on this channel. This is not the Hot Mess Express. This would be the hot mess, a locomotive double train. You can't have massive unemployment, you can't have massive evictions, and you can't have massive foreclosures because banks can't deal with that. They will literally implode, and when the banks implode, the entire economy implodes. So what are local authorities doing with the situation? Well, yesterday I detailed Texas. In Texas, they said, hey, we're going to throw some grant money at you, which the HEROES plan does propose to do. But grant money is not the emergency fix. If you don't realize, it doesn't prevent a landlord from evicting you. You need the emergency fix that says, I can't be evicted, I can't be foreclosed. So their plan doesn't work, and that's why Texas is under fire. Well, in Santa Monica, out here on the West Coast, they have an eviction moratorium in place. This is what the current order says. On July 15th, City of Santa Monica further extended its emergency eviction moratorium. It now extends it all the way to September 30th, 2020. Which is interesting. It says, hey, we're giving 2 more months. We're ensuring that you cannot be evicted during this pandemic until September 30th. Now, that's not the final date. That's just the date it is currently. If you are an eligible residential renter, please note, and the reason why I'm going over this is it's the same generally nationwide where eviction moratoriums are in place. And it's generally what's going to happen when the federal law is passed. The rent due is not waived, just deferred. What does deferred mean, LLA? What is that darn? You have big words on your channel. What does deferred mean? First there's moratorium, then there's forbearance, and it's deferred. I can't deal with all this. Deferred means it's not now, it's in the future. You don't have to pay it now, it's in the future. Moratorium, rent eviction moratorium means stop. Can't do it. We're not going to do them. Mortgage forbearance means foreclosure forbearance, we're not going to allow that to proceed. Stop. Next, Santa Monica says you must pay your rent within 12 months of the end of the moratorium. Again, there's that big word. So after the stop date, you have to pay your rent 12 months thereafter. Interesting. So it's I like this law a lot. So it's basically saying if the moratorium is lifted tomorrow, you don't have to pay the rent tomorrow. Because everyone will be like, I'm not ready to pay it tomorrow. We just got out of the pandemic yesterday. So Santa Monica says, no, a year from now, we'll give you that relief. Landlords cannot charge interest on unpaid debt. This is a big one, and this is what Kamala Harris was talking about here in California. But she introduced it on a federal bill. And a federal bill which probably won't get merged with the second stimulus package. She's trying to get it to merge. I don't think it's going to happen. She said, I don't want landlords to ruin your credit, tenants. I don't want banks to ruin your credit, mortgage holders, property owners. I don't want you to be charged interest rates. I don't want you to be charged penalties. It's a great rule. It's generally done with utilities companies. When this pandemic started in California, Gavin Newsom said the same thing with utility companies. If you can't pay your electric or water or gas, we're not going to order you to pay it, but we're also going to order the utility companies not to charge you a late fee and not to charge you a fine or interest. Eligibility requirements. The following renters are eligible for rent deferrals: residential tenants and certain commercial tenants. So this is really quite great. Will the rent eviction moratorium on a federal level cover commercial? I don't get that question, but I certainly want to know the answer. Likely so. Tenant notification to landlord. So there's a lot of notification requirements which I'm not going to bother you with, but ultimately this is the section that I'm most worried about. It's at the end of what Santa Monica talks about, and it's what I started at the front of this video about. Simply making sure that everyone knows this is happening. Legal aid and legal help. The Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles provides high-quality free legal help to 100,000 people who cannot deal with the situation. Kamala Harris talked about this. She said, hey, we can pass an eviction moratorium in the second stimulus package, but what happens to those bad landlords? You know who they are, who ultimately say, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to change the locks on you. You can't change locks, by the way. I'm going to just show up in the middle of the night and change your locks and lock you out of your own house. And I can't evict you, but I'm going to take it into my own regard and do how I want to do it, because that's how we do it in my city. Those are bad landlords. What's going to happen? Ultimately, we'll see in the second stimulus package if there's that whip, as someone said, LA, get your whip out. If there's that whip in there to, take care of those bad landlords that don't follow the eviction moratorium, because there will be some of those. Those bad banks that don't follow the mortgage forbearance, because there'll be some of those. What will happen? I will be here, you'll be here, and we'll stay with it for more. Coming up later tonight, Evenings LA Late, our 1 hour programming block where we talk about the check, questions and answers, and EIDL. Thank you for joining me every day for Afternoons LA Late, starting at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, a 2 hour programming block. Have a great afternoon. Stay informed, stay educated, share and tell other people what I've informed you today, and stay in LA for more.